Hello everyone, this is Grace. It is November the 10th, 2022, and today we're just going to talk a little bit. We're going to talk about light and the moon. And I did a video before where we were talking about how light reflects off an object, how it starts at the hot spot and then it gets darker and darker and then fades out into nothing. Well, that is the way light works. I actually, before I did this video, I had my sister go out and I had her buy some dirt. I actually wanted her to pick some dirt up off the ground, but she went and bought some dirt. She bought me some rocks. I brought a brand new high-powered flashlight. I was going to do all kinds of experiments for you just to show you that it works exactly the same way with every single thing on earth. Well, there's one exception, which I'll tell you about in a minute. That light works exactly the same way with every single thing on the earth. Then I realized just after putting the dirt in a plate so I could point a flashlight at it and take a picture, I just felt so stupid. I just couldn't bring myself to do it. I just couldn't bring myself to do it because literally every single thing you see during your waking hours does this. Every single thing reflects light in exactly the same way. This is a ball, and I intentionally showed a shiny ball because it reflects light more. You see, it's easier to see and identify the patterns in this shiny ball. But matted objects, every single thing, even small objects, no matter how tiny you think they are, a grain of sand reflects light exactly the same as this. It might not be as shiny, but it still reflects it exactly the same way. That's the way light works. That's the way light works. Now, I can't prove this to you in a way that you would like other than to show you a ball with a light pointed at it. You know why? Because if I try to prove it to you with the sun shines bright on everything. Everything is under the hot spot of the sun. We have 3 different time zones. If we were to look at the earth during Eastern time, we would see that the sun is brightest over, if we would see that the sun is brighter over New York and the section that's in the Eastern time zone than it is in the other time zones of America. From 12 to 1, it's going to be shinier. It's going to shine brighter over the central time zone. And then an hour later, it's going to shine brighter over the mountain time zone. The light moves and there is a level, as a matter of fact, they're really working hard to deceive you. Really working hard to deceive you. We're living in the last days, that's for sure. I remember that I gave you guys the formula for measuring the intensity of light. I went online, I tried to find that formula. They changed everything to waves and patterns and all kinds of stuff. And if you read enough, you'll be able to find the word distance. But after reading all that stuff, I wasn't going to bring that to you. That would have just confused you more. I was like, what is this? You can see every single day that distance makes a difference. Here you can see light shining on these objects. Everything is going to have a shiny side. Here you are. It's dirt, basically. That's all dirt. But you see where the light is shining on it versus to where it's less. And then it's almost dark over here, but still there's some residual light. Just because the light isn't shining directly on it, as it is coming from this side, it still has light. Hardly anything. Let me tell you about the one exception before I go on. The one exception was about a year or so ago, maybe even 2 years. I was watching videos on YouTube and I came across this video showing the blackest black paint ever. This guy painted a car. I don't know if it's still on YouTube or not because I watched it a couple of years ago. This guy painted a car the blackest black, the blackest of the black paint. It essentially paints a black hole onto anything that you paint it on, because in a black hole the light doesn't reflect up, you see. It doesn't and this had removed like 90 something percentage of the reflective properties of the light from the paint. And it is a deep, deep, deep black, because everything else reflects light. It reflects it. It's not going to be, this isn't shiny. If it was packed together more, it would be shiny. But because it's loose, there's going to be more shadows in it. It literally proves my point. Because the grains are smaller and less packed together, the shine on this seems to be less than the shine on this. This is smoother and what's much more packed together. So it's going to be shinier. It's going to reflect light better because the shadows aren't going to be able to creep in there. Here, it's still reflecting light. You still see that this is white. This is white. This is white. And these other areas aren't. Every single minute of every single day of your life, of your visual awake life, you see this. There's more light here. There's more light here. There's more light here. You can see almost exactly the direction. Well, we have the shadows to work with too. But you can still see the light here. You can see the light here, and then it goes back. But there's still light on it. It's just that it's shinier here because that's where the light first impacts. And then everything else goes backwards. We have to be able to see this. It's light, shadows, and distance, or something like that. Light, shadows, and distance. Here we have a light here. This almost looks kind of white, almost like in the back. Here you can see the places that are standing out the furthest, closest to the sun. And then you can see the shadowy area still in the light, but not as easily seen. All of this. I wish there was a way for me to prove this from the sun. But unfortunately, the sun covers everything. But when you look at the moon, of course, when you look at the moon and you see everything reflected off the moon, then you should see a hot spot there on that moon. Somewhere. Now, they say that the moon is a reflection. So I have not done any experiments for the reflection, so I don't know how the hot spot would work. But assuming logically that you should see a hot spot, I'll actually do that experiment later. I'll actually go and get a mirror and try and see if I can move that flashlight across and see if it'll reflect at a higher rate, at a higher intensity of light. At a higher intensity of light as a reflection. But let me go back for a moment, because I forgot to tell you guys something. When in the formula of the intensity of light, distance is a factor. Anybody that tries to tell you different is trying to deceive you. They're intentionally trying to cause you to fall. Distance is a factor in how much light you see. Always. Okay? Don't let people lie to you like that. One other thing. So you can see the light here, and then it's dark, and then it's light, and then there's gray, and then it goes gray, black. Almost black at the very back. Light, almost white, you can barely see it. A little bit gray, and then it gets darker. This is rock. You're not going to tell me that rock doesn't reflect light. Everything does, except for maybe that matted area. That matte paint might not. Light, almost white, a little bit darker here. It gets darker still. And then you can still see the light, the little parts of white being reflected, but it's still darker. Why? Because there's more crevices. The light is not hitting on it directly. It's indirect. And then back here is black. There's no light. It's just, I just can't believe they're getting desperate. They're getting desperate. One other thing is what I don't understand is how in the world can you say that? Okay, let me just clarify. We've already discussed if the moon moves around us, then we should be able to see different parts of the moon at night, like the way that they tell us, if it moves around us throughout the day. So if the moon isn't moving, but the sun is reflecting the light, then we should be able to discern those same time zones across the moon as we can discern time zones across the earth. This is something that we should be able to see. Oh, here I wanted to point out you have a little bit of light here, and you can see that the light is coming from this direction. I think it's a little cloudy. It's a little cloudy, so it's not bright. But you can see the light on the dirt. You can see light on everything. Everything. It reflects more. It's a little cloudy, so it's a little blotchy here. But you can still see it. You can see it. It's absolutely clear. That's crazy. It's crazy to think that you should not. This is what you would see if light reflected or it didn't reflect. This is what you would see, black and white. I think I saw varying degrees of light here somewhere. I can't remember. Well, of course you can see that this right here is lighter than on the tips because the sun is coming from this direction going this way. So you can see it's lighter here. It reflects down here. Then there's a shadow there. I think this is a different color. That might be also right here. Yeah, both of those are a different color. But you can still see the light over here. And right here. Here you can see that it's coming from the other direction and it's lighting up the tip. Completely different color. Completely different. And it's just dark over there. Just dark. All residual light. Just completely dark. Look at the difference between these. Look at the contrast. Here, residual light, I guess that's what you call it. And then over there, if you look at the mountains, just white. Just look almost white. They don't even look like the same mountains. Those back there. You have the moon. Look at the if the light didn't, if one of the things that if the moon is not reflecting light, besides being able to see the sun go across, because it looks like it's a little bit bright right here. Okay, it looks like a little bit. Besides not, okay, you would need to see if the sun is moving across, reflecting the moon, but there's no light, then there needs to be some sort of change in this. There just needs to be some sort of change. It needs to get bigger or smaller or something like that. But you can see that it does reflect light because they have these craters. We haven't covered that much enough of the moon to know that what these are, but still they call them craters. You know why? Because everyone knows that the deeper down you go, the less light is reflected. So they can make a very scientifically educated guess that these are craters. It's not true, of course. We don't know what those are. It's probably the damage on the moon. What could be craters? Hold on a second. I do believe it's craters because ice can have craters. Oh, this was a good one because you can tell that the sun is setting, because look how direct the light is going through here. Look how, it's just like a streak of light shooting right through here. So it's just the tip of the light shining through, and it's not lighting up everything. It's just lighting up this part here, and it's going straight through. Well, it's not going, it's going in this direction. But you can see this, because this is part of the mountains that it's hidden by this part. But you can see this right here is hit by the light. This is. All of it, of course, is hit by the same amount of light. So you can't, it doesn't really do much in order to prove that there's going to be a hot spot on the moon. But there's a hot spot on everything. This is what I'm trying to tell you. These are no different than the ball. It's just smaller grains that are being reflected. It's absolutely no difference. No difference at all. One other thing I want to tell you, I had talked to you guys about an experiment that I had seen. That experiment was not real. I tried to reproduce that experiment. No, I can't say it's not real. I have to keep trying. I tried to reproduce that experiment and could not, right? I have a cheap flashlight. The only way I could get that ball to shine at a half moon was I had to take the ball and put the flashlight behind to the side of the light. Because when I would shine the light on the ball, it would always curve into that circle. But if I would take it and I would push it behind and to the side behind and to the side, then the round light would come around and make a straight line. And I remember this because I recently saw someone do the experiment again. And I was like, wait a second. So I'm watching. The man was holding the ball up. The ball never moved, right? So I'm looking at his hand, and his hand's just moving and shaking around and all kinds of stuff. But the light never changed. The light was always perfect. They photoshopped it. They photoshopped it. He photoshopped it. And he's moving it around. His hand's perfectly still holding the ball. He's holding up the light, and his hand is moving around and shaking and stuff like this. And he's trying to keep his hand still, but you know your hand's always going to move a little bit if you're holding something and it's trying to focus. And his hand is moving. Light is perfectly still on the ball. Photoshopped it. And I found the same kind of error a long time ago in the experiment that I referred you guys to. The same kind of error. I can't remember what it was, but I remember it did not work out. The experiment did not work out. I'm going to try it again. I want to get a better flashlight. I have a cheap flashlight and a good flashlight. Cheap flashlight could not repeat that experiment for anything. My good flashlight, though, unfortunately, has like about 4 different lights in it. So it's like 5, I think. 5 different lights in it. So I couldn't try it with that. I need one light. One light. Anyway, don't they tell us that this gives off more heat? Don't they tell us that this gives off more light? Well, we don't need them to tell us that. We know when there's more light. It's called high noon. It's called high noon. We know this. We know this. Every single thing that we see has lights, shadows, and distance. In order for us to gain a perspective of what we're looking at. We need that. Anyway. Here, this is kind of like what my light with more than one bulb looks like. It has this heavy light stream here, which is where all of the lights are going to focus in, and then it's kind of lighter on the sides. But anyway, you can see here where it's stronger. It goes out stronger, and then it shoots in the center, but then it's lighter on the sides. Same light. Same light. Same thing. Stronger here, and then it shoots out. And it gets, as it goes away, there's less and less light. It gets weaker and weaker until it really is just going to go into nothing at some point. But it starts off strong, super strong, a whole lot of light, and then it gets weaker and weaker as it goes out. You can see the light reflected off of these stones. These stones are still stones. They're still reflecting as everything reflects but they're a little shinier. A little bit shinier, a little bit smoother, so you can see the light reflected a little bit better. But it's reflected off of everything. Every single thing. You can, well, we'll make an exception for that blackest paint. We'll make an exception for that. There's light reflected off of here. Don't let anyone tell you anything different. If they try to tell you that, then I get some kind of explanation as to why we see, as to why, if everything's moving around at night, why we're seeing the same thing all night, just move around and from different places and into a different place. It doesn't work. Here's light on here. You can see where it's being reflected heavily in these areas because the sand is packed more tight, maybe. Reflected less in these areas because the sand is looser. But the light is going to be the same intensity no matter where you can take a picture on Earth. You're not going to find anything on Earth that doesn't have the same light. Even if you walk from time zone to time zone, it just doesn't work that way. But we know that there are hot spots on Earth. We know this. This is just not, it just doesn't make any sense for it to be otherwise. But this is what they're saying now. That's what they're saying. That's why I'm doing this video, because now they're trying to say, no, there's no such thing as a hot spot. What? Are you kidding me? Literally, we see this every single day of our lives on everything. But now it doesn't exist. All of this is being shined. All of this has the sun shining on it. All of it does. Some of it is broken up. This right here is more compact, right? So it's more shiny. Some of it is broken up. Look at this. You see how small this is? These stones are just as shiny as this one. It's just that there's more shadows on it, so it's harder to see. If we were, however, looking at it from far, far back, as we are from the moon, as we are with the moon, then we would be able to say the sun is shining on this area and not that area. It's very simple. Some people, they're just trying to deceive you. I'm telling you. They're trying to deceive you. You can see the sun shining here. I don't know if people are trying to deceive. Well, I don't know if people are trying to deceive you. I have to do that experiment first myself before I say that people are trying to deceive you. This stuff right here, people can be saying that out of ignorance. They can really, truly not know. But if you Photoshop a picture of someone where you're doing an experiment and you're showing that you can have a half moon with reflection on the sun. No, you're intentionally doing that. That's intentional. I just can't prove that yet. I have to do one more experiment yet. I actually started to hold up this video, but the video that I watched, I started to hold up this video till I could do the experiment. But let's see, look at the light. Strong here, goes out strong, weakens up. The video that I watched they started using shaming tactics. Light here, dark here, light, shadows, and distance. This is our world. Our entire world is light, shadows, distance. That's our visual world. Look how light these mountains are. Look how light they are. Sun's shining on them. Here you can see the sun is shining on these rocks over here. They're reflecting. It's shining on all of the rocks. Well, some of these rocks are a little bit darker up here and then lighter down here. You can tell that. So that'll have some. You can see it over here too. That'll have some impact on what you see as well. We know that shaming tactics that's their primary tool. That's their primary weapon against us. Oh man, you're so stupid. I can't believe you believe this. You ought to be ashamed of yourself for repeating that. Oh, I can't, and so the person that I was watching was using shaming tactics. So I didn't want to hold this up. But I'll do the experiment again later. I have to get another flashlight. And then I'll do that experiment again later. And I wish I would have had another picture of the moon in here. I forgot to put one in here. But we know that they say there's craters on the moon. We know that. All the light reflecting off of the dirt. Reflecting. You think that this dirt is not going to get darker as the sun moves on past this time zone? It is. I assure you it is. And it's going to get lighter in another area. That's just the way it works. Anyway, I got too many pictures in here. Just got too many pictures in here. I just downloaded a bunch of pictures with light. Here you can see, even on the most matted stone, you can see that the sun is here. Let me pull it back first so you can see that the sun is coming from over here. And then you can see all of the stones that are light on this side. And then you can see that they gradually get darker. You can see a little bit of light on the side here, and it gradually gets darker and darker as it goes back. Same thing here. Same thing with everything. You can see the light on the stones. Light on the stones. Anyway, I just wanted to address that because I noticed that that was something that that's something that I saw, and I didn't want you guys to feel bad about believing the truth that you see every single day, while these people are telling you, while some people are trying to tell you, I don't really know how popular it is, they're trying to tell you that there's no bright spot on the moon. Yeah, there should be. There most certainly should be. And the idea that you would go against every single thing that you see every single day of your visual life is strange to me. It's strange. More shiny rocks. Still rocks though. Still rocks. Rocks, dirt, doesn't matter what it is. You can see it on the end. I put this in here because of the marshmallow. So you can see how it's lit up at the bottom here and a little bit at the top. But then it gets darker near the top. Here you can see the side of the stick. And still more, this isn't over the flame. So it's just lighting up almost all of the side of the stick. Because it's not over the flame. This is over the flame a little bit. And it's just shiny on the bottom. Okay, I think that's it. Well, it's not. Here, all of this is facing toward the sun, but you can see how much brighter and how much whiter these lines are that distinguish it from the other parts. Same grain, but you can tell the difference. You can tell that this part is hitting the light before these parts here, before the side. How is it? How is this a question? How is it a question? Can you see this white line here? And then it gets darker as it goes down. Here's another white line. And then it gets darker as it goes farther away from the sun. This is just, you have, it's white here, white here. I'm just not understanding why they're trying to say this and why anybody would say this. I just don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get how this is an argument. This is strange to me. White, super white from being in the sun. All up here is white. You can see all of the light from the sun. It's all going to be the same, mind you, because the sun is everything in the same intensity that you're ever going to see with a camera. So everything gets hit with the same intensity. But we know that there are several time zones that show who gets the most intensity when. Beyond that, we use shadows and distance. That's our visual world. Color. You can add color. Color, of course, is going to be part of our visual world. Of course, we know that. Texture, all of that stuff. But I'm talking about the most basics. the most basics to help you identify the how far or how close something is away. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Look how light that is. All right, I'm gonna stop there. I've spent 30 minutes rambling, and I still have more photos. I downloaded a bunch of photos. Hold on, there can't be many more. Yeah, I thought this one was a good one. Oh, my computer is so slow. It's being it normally doesn't. Okay, there we go. That's all of them. So anyway, I just wanted to have that quick conversation with you about light, just so that you wouldn't feel bad or be deceived by this new thing that they've got, that they're saying that there's not going to be a hot spot on the moon. Now, I cannot tell you as far as reflection goes, because they say it is a reflection, but there is a hot spot on everything. Everything that you see in your visual world has a hot spot. So if there's not one on the moon, they need to tell us why. And they are also going to have to tell us why, if no, that was if the moon was going at the rate. I keep jumping back from study to study. I'm sorry. I don't want to go over what we've already been over as far as us seeing the moon change at night if it's being reflected. Yeah. There should be something to distinguish which part of the moon is being lit up when. Anyway, I will leave it at that, and I will talk with you in the next video.